The radical left's agendas are attacking your American values. But conservatives like you haven't forgotten what this country was built on. My friends, the Heritage Foundation exists to make sure your voice is heard and to represent your values in the swamp and quagmire of D.C. The Heritage Foundation stands for your values and will not give up the fight because they know you never will. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
America, Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Well, these lower federal courts act as if the Supreme Court never ruled. We have a judge in the L.A. area appointed by Biden, whose name I can't even pronounce, who's issuing an opinion tomorrow in full, today in part, essentially claiming that the ICE roundup of various illegal aliens is racist, among other things. And so we will wait to get more of that. We have a judge today who also ruled with a national injunction in support of birthright citizenship. So they're still on the move here. They're still doing what they've been doing in many regards, as if the U.S. Supreme Court hasn't ruled. So now we have these Biden-Obama judges who are literally defying not just the Constitution and federal law, not just separation of powers, the core of the Constitution, but are now defying a ruling by the United States Supreme Court. And it's funny, you're not hearing in the press, are you, about the attack on the Constitution, about judicial tyranny or dictatorships. You're not hearing about any of that. And yet that's exactly what's taking place in this country right now. And if the judge in L.A., should her ruling be upheld, which I doubt it would be, but again, it takes time, but should it be upheld, you will not be able to round up people and deport them because the ACLU's basic position, and man, let me tell you something, they're throwing a 60-yard pass, and they threw it to the right judge. They threw it to the right judge. They're basically saying you can't go into certain neighborhoods because of their ethnicity. You can't go into certain places because of their ethnicity and on because it's just palpable racial discrimination. You believe this, Mr. Producer? So you can't go into the neighborhoods where these people are because you're going into the neighborhoods where these people are. Now, let me be very clear about something. President Trump has made enormous progress all across the map, domestic and foreign. But these institutions are now being turned against us. And we're not going to have President Trump around forever, and we're not going to win elections forever. They're going to win elections, too. And when they win elections, they use the permanent part of the government, the courts and the administrative state, to enshrine their ideology, making it impossible to undo it, election or no election. It's important to know what we're dealing with here. This is the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party hates America. I wrote a whole book and it explains it. But this ideology, the Marxist, Islamist ideology, is at home in the Democrat Party. That's where it is. And its anti-Americanism is at the core of their belief system. It's at the core of their belief system. You have this guy running in New York, Zohran Mamdani, who's a complete fraud. He filed on his college application, said he was both black and Asian American. He's neither black nor Asian American. He's Indian. He's a cheat, he's a liar, he's a fraud. But he's serious about his ideology. And his ideology is Stalinist Islamist. That's what it is. It's not democratic socialist. It is Stalinist Islamic. That's what it is. And it is this ideology, this fusion of ideologies that have taken over much of Europe. You'll see one town after another, one city after another in Britain and France, other parts of Europe, and now here in the United States. It's not an accident. Qatar has funded this. Hamas has funded this. Iran has funded this. Communist China has funded this. You'd be shocked at some of the conservative platforms in our media that have money from Qatar or Saudi Arabia or individuals who are sympathetic to them. If you hear people saying things that seem weird, as Rush would say, follow the money. Now, here we have the chairman of the Democrat National Committee, Ken Martin, on PBS today, as he's asked about Zohran Mamdani's refusal to condemn the globalization of the Intifada. The globalization of the Intifada, America, is worldwide terrorism targeting Jews and the West. That is the killing of Jews in the West internationally. That's what it is. And he won't condemn it. Listen to this. Hat tip, free beacon, cut 6, go.
What about concerns from some of your Jewish colleagues in particular about him not outright condemning the phrase globalize the Intifada in a recent interview? Some of your Jewish colleagues have said that that could be very disturbing, potentially dangerous. Do you agree with that?
You know, there's no candidate in this party that I agree 100% of the time with, to be honest with you. There's things that I don't agree with Mamdani that he said. But at the end of the day, I always believe, as a Democratic Party chair in Minnesota for the last 14 years and now the chair of the DNC, that you win through addition. You win by bringing people into your coalition.
Okay, now listen to this guy. Just a political hack spewing stupidity. He won't condemn it. He will not condemn it. Go ahead.
Conservative Democrats, we have centrist Democrats, we have...
what does this have to do with the guy saying globalize the Intifada? Absolutely nothing. We have conservative Democrats, very few. We have progressives like me, he says, and now you have jihadis and Islamists who believe in slaughtering people in the West, especially Jews. That's your big umbrella. Your big umbrella includes individuals who spew terrorist slogans. Go ahead.
Like me, and we have this new brand of Democrat, which is the leftists. And we win by bringing people into that coalition. And at the end of the day, for me, that's the type of party we're going to lead. We are a big tent party. Yes, it leads to dissent.
All right, it's a big tent party, ladies and gentlemen. You heard him. So it's a big tent party that includes terrorists or individuals who spew terrorist lines. That's the big tent. Arzu Malik. Oh, yeah, the names are just great. Arzu Malik is a former intern for Zohran Mamdani. Arzu Malik, former intern for Zohran Mamdani, calls for a holy war through jihad. That is, the slaughter of people who don't agree with him. That's what a holy war is. Hat tip libs of TikTok. Cut 7, go.
And the true believer knows that none of this is in vain, that this is all jihad, that this is all ibadah, and that this is all counted for by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so the conversation of doxing, the conversation of getting arrested and suspended, I think it's time for Muslims to start to say, all right, so what? do what you want. I'm gonna do what I gotta do, because it's about time to do that. And I know everybody has their own families and has an education and everything. Just a question. We don't want to get doxxed, and we don't want to get suspended, and we don't want to get arrested. How gangsta are you? That's just my question. How much are you willing to do it? And I know everyone has their own risk levels, but at the end of the day, that's a question to ask ourselves. How committed am I to this? To what extent of my personal material gains am I willing to sacrifice for this bigger noble cause? And
the bigger noble cause, ladies and gentlemen, is the violent overthrow of the United States of America, the violent overthrow of the West, the violent overthrow of the city of New York. Listen to this woman. Listen to this punk. People come into this country, or they're born into this country, and look how they talk about the country. They're at war with the country. They think it's funny. They're aggressive about it. They're ideological about it. They hate us. They hate the country. This is what we're breeding in this country. Lack of assimilation, a lack of patriotism. Our schools have been taken over by these iron-fisted police state type teachers unions. As I've said to you many times before, the Democrat Party is like the Communist Party in these communist regimes. It's about the party. It's not about the country. Whatever it takes. A big tent. A big tent. Yeah, we'll let in the Marxists, the Islamists, the Jew haters, the American haters, the flag burners. Yeah, we'll let them in. Big tent. We're a big tent party. And they're really not, are they? Not if you're pro-life. Not if you're a moderate. No, you're really not part of the big tent, are you? Go ahead.
When your heart is in the right place, if you get suspended, if you get doxxed, because it's bound to happen when you're doing a righteous cause and when you're doing something for the sake of Allah here in the West.
You're doing something for the sake of Allah here in the West. And from her perspective, what is the sake of Allah here in the West? It is the utter and complete evisceration of the West. That's what it is. That's what it is. This is a young person. This guy running for mayor is 33 years old. This is his mindset. And when you read my book on power, when you read my book, American Marxism, the Democrat Party hates America, these last three books lay it out. But this book on power is very, very important. It's a book for our times. It really is, for the times that we're describing right now, that you're witnessing right now. We've got a real problem here, a real spider web of problems here with the lower courts taken over by these leftists, American Marxists and Islamists. We have people here who are first generation. Biden picked these people not because they're first generation, but they're first generation radicals. That's why he picked them. And they're here, and they put them on the bench. They took them out of these radical, non-governmental organizations, radical ethnic front groups, out of the ACLU, out of our law schools and so forth. They picked the most radical people they could, and now they're judges. So they're advocates as judges. They're activists as judges. This is who they are. This is what they're doing. And they're still issuing these nationwide injunctions, or they're issuing injunctions in order to stop ICE from taking out illegal immigrants. Let me ask you something. How come in the 1950s, when Eisenhower did this over a 6-month period and deported over 1 million people, how come he wasn't violating the Constitution left and right? But today, if you try and do it, you're violating the Constitution left and right. Did the Constitution change? No, the judges have changed. The judges have changed. So even now when the Supreme Court rules, these lower courts give it the finger. And you have advocates for this destructive ideology, for the American Marxist Islamist ideology on the court. It's typically Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson. But even Jackson is one of a kind. She's completely out of the closet. She is a judicial bomb thrower. And her opinions aren't even rational. They're not even based on precedent or law or the Constitution. They are like op-eds in the Washington Post or the New York Times. I've got a lot more. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, the American flag is under attack. We saw it mocked and burned in L.A. during protests. And when people attack the American flag, aren't they attacking everything it stands for? The sacrifice of our troops, the values of our founding, the promise of liberty and justice for all. Thankfully, patriots like you haven't forgotten what the flag stands for. You're the reason the Heritage Foundation created Flags of Our Fathers, the meaning and history of the U.S. flag. This is a resource for patriots like you to remind and refresh ourselves of the American flag's history and deep importance to our nation. Claim your free copy today at heritage.org/Levin. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. If we lose the meaning of our flag, we risk losing our nation. That's why it's imperative that patriots just like you take advantage of the Heritage Foundation's new resource, Flags of Our Fathers. Let's do our part in this fight by going to heritage.org/Levin right now. Heritage.org/LEVIN, paid for by the Heritage Foundation. Be specific. So here we have a federal judge in New Hampshire appointed by George W. Bush, who basically certifies a class status, meaning a national injunction, as Sam Alito warned, on the birthright citizenship issue. Class status, meaning now he's going to rule for a whole class of people no matter where they live, illegal alien children. And I read most of what he had to say, and basically the judge says exactly what I told you they would say and what I fear the Supreme Court majority will say, which is, look, this is a long-standing practice, birthright citizenship. Who am I to undo this after all these years? And he's self-righteous in his tone. It's not even a close call. So it's not really a constitutional analysis at all. He'll get around to it. They'll dress it up as a constitutional issue and a constitutional answer. But that's the bottom line. They're going to say, this has been going on a long time. Who am I to upset it? So that's where that's going, and that was my fear. Now we have a judge in L.A., Judge Mami Uwuzi Mensah Frimpong, I kid you not, a Biden appointee, on granting emergency restraining orders against ICE over allegations the agency is violating the constitutional rights during its immigration arrests. It was brought in June. It was brought a petition by 3 detainees. It's ballooned into this big case. And these so-called groups and local governments, including L.A. and West Hollywood and so on, they've all intervened in the case. And the plaintiffs allege that ICE is indiscriminately arresting people with brown skin at Home Depots and car washes and farms and more. And I've asked this question before. Well, where do you find illegal aliens? Car washes, farms, restaurants, Home Depot. Where the hell else are they going to be? 7-Elevens? But it was based on their skin color, you see. That's why they were going into these locations. The plaintiffs argue the Trump administration gave ICE an unrealistic quota of 3,000 arrests per day. Plaintiffs also asked the judge to expand visitor access to short-term detention. And so basically it's a race issue now, you see, because if you're collecting people who've come here from Haiti or Africa or Central or South America or other places, and you go where they live or where they're active, then that is per se proof, prima facie proof that you're a racist. Crazy, nuts. Folks, we've seen in our streets over the past several months the burning of the American flag. Even worse, we saw the Mexican flag and the Palestinian flag waved defiantly during LA's violent riots. There's something seriously wrong with that picture. The American flag is under attack across the country, and with it the American promise of liberty. But while the left attacks our flag and everything else we hold dear, bold conservatives like you across the country refuse to let the flag fall. That's why the Heritage Foundation created Flags of Our Fathers, a critical resource for patriots who want to remind ourselves of the American flag's history. Flags of Our Fathers contains the untold history of the flag's creation and the meaning of the stars and stripes. Let's take a stand for the American flag today by going to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin, and claiming your free copy of Flags of Our Fathers. That's heritage.org/Levin, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Mark Levin, the research arm of conservative media. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
It's incredible, isn't it? There's other rulings today, too, but it's incredible how these institutions have been completely corrupted. Completely corrupted. And the judges are just shockingly appalling. They truly are. By the way, we have two great shows on Life, Liberty, and Levin this weekend. I hope you'll set your DVR. I hope you'll watch them live. I hope you'll do both, just in case. Saturday, we have a full 1-hour interview with Benjamin Netanyahu. That's why I wasn't here on the radio. I had to go to Washington, D.C. It's a fascinating interview. It's not the typical type of interview. He was very relaxed, and you'll see a side of him you haven't seen. And he's smart as hell, and there are different things he was talking about. In any event, I think you're gonna find it very intriguing. And that's an exclusive interview with the Prime Minister for the full hour. And then on Sunday, we have our friend Stephen Miller and our friend Douglas Murray. Two really fantastic minds there. And that's Sunday. So Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern on Life, Liberty, and Levin on Fox. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern on Life, Liberty, and Levin on Fox. If you're not sure you're going to be around, that's why you should always set your DVR. That's what we actually do that in our own house. For shows that we want to watch, too. You should check that out. I will also point out that On Power, my new book, will be released in less than 3 weeks now, on July 29th. If you want to get a good deal and get it quickly, you can order the book on Amazon.com. The book has received really very significant acclaim by people who've been reading it. It will be discussed at great length, not just by me, but by others. And it is a very readable book, but it is, in my view, a very consequential book on power. All these things we've been talking about are addressed in a very substantive way, philosophical, constitutional, historical way in the book. I break it down in a way where it flows, I hope, logically. It's a great book for summer reading. The chapters are Chapter 1 on power, a general discussion. Chapter 2 on negative power, and I explain what I mean by that. Chapter 3 on positive power. Chapter 4 on language. Chapter 5 on rights. Chapter 6 on liberty. And then the epilogue. And it's all extremely relevant to what's taking place today. The funny thing is I have a section on the courts. I have a section on Marxism and Islamism. I have a section on you name it. And yet it's the most concise book I've ever written. It's also the best priced book I've ever written. And I think the timing is very, very important. It's also, the timing is propitious. That is, there's a level of luck. When you release a book, you write a book. If the timing is right or if the timing's not right, it just happens to be that the timing on this book is right. And on the back cover, there's an excerpt from On Power. Many have written about and debated the issue of power, including the ancients and modern philosophers, scholars, and statesmen alike. Why? Because power determines your social arrangements, quality of life, and more to the point of this book, whether you are free or enslaved or some degree of either. In short, it determines your personal fate, the fate of your community, and the fate of a nation. So much in life orbits around this word, this idea, belief, power. This book is intended to provoke a better comprehension of what is meant by power, the impact on the individual and mankind generally, and stimulate a broader examination and dialogue about its applications. In doing so, if it succeeds even modestly, perhaps it will prove an additional source for liberty and against tyranny. And that's why I wrote it the way I did. That's why it's concise. But I don't pull any punches in this book. I don't pull any punches. And we move smoothly through history and philosophy, ancient philosophy, modern philosophy. We move smoothly through our own history, worldwide history, faith and religion, and all these different things. Because this is your life. Your life is much more complicated than you might even think. You might say, I go to work, but your life as a human being, the things that influence you and the things that you influence, many of which you may not realize. You're a universe unto yourself, and you're a universe that projects onto others. And in effect, that's what I'm trying to describe in the book. And we talk about liberty here, and I have. You know, we changed to talk radio on this show. We changed it forever. When we get into philosophy, and we get into history, and we get into all these things. I could sit here and talk about Epstein till I'm blue in the face. I could sit here and talk about whatever it is. These things will come and go. They'll be resolved one way or another. But your liberty and your rights are up for grabs, America. There's a lot of shiny objects out there, and the goal is to ignore them. There are a lot of pseudo-events. There's a lot of propagandists and demagogues. There's a lot of stuff going on out there that will not affect your lives one iota. Contrarily, there's a lot of things going on each and every day that will affect your lives and don't get the focus that they need, either because we're busy or we're distracted. And it's my role, my job, in my view, is to keep us focused. I don't always succeed. I don't always succeed myself. That's the nature of imperfection, but that's okay. And one of the things I decided when I sat down to write this book, when I write a book, I've been thinking about something a long time. I don't just say, okay, now it's time to write a book. Let me talk about how do. Let me talk about myself and my third volume of my memoir. No. I just came to realize that we talk about liberty and we talk about rights, and we must talk about liberty and we must talk about rights. But they don't matter if the earthly manifestation of liberty and rights don't exist, or they're not in the proper place, or they're not set up the way they need to be set up. In other words, we get these liberties and these rights from God, from a more powerful force than human beings. So we talk about unalienable rights or free will. But they don't mean anything if here on earth, they're not practiced or put in practice a certain way. And so I got to thinking, when we talk about the Constitution, when we talk about liberty, when we talk about rights and so forth, we do not spend enough time on power. Because power determines if you actually can exercise these God-given rights. Now, people talk about in passing the type of governments that are set up, that sort of. I'm talking about that, but much more. Which is why I get into things like negative power, positive power, soft negative power, soft positive power, and so forth and so on. One day, probably when I'm long dead and gone, the book will be used in ways to describe what should have been or what could have been or what needs to be. Now, here I'm behind this microphone or in front of a TV camera or wherever I am. And so there's Mark Levin. People either love me or they don't. Many of you do, and I much appreciate that. But when the words are read and the concepts are made and the terms are expressed without really a reflection on me, that is, the messenger, I actually think they'll have more meaning. Look, to me that's kind of sad, but that's the nature of the beast. I'm not Alexis de Tocqueville, but for 50 years, Alexis de Tocqueville was ignored until after he died. He was about 50, and 40 or 50 years later, people began to pick up his 2 volumes, The Democracy in America, which were largely ignored, and they said, wait a minute, this is real stuff. This is important. This is important stuff. Frederick Bastiat, the same thing. He wrote the book, The Law. Short book, basically thoughts, little essays, and so forth and so on. But he was long gone until somebody said, whoa, this is important stuff. I suspect, if I'm, could be way off, that's the sort of thing that'll happen with these books, particularly this one. But On Power is written really for now and in the future. It's written to have a lasting impact. If not today, tomorrow and the next day, if you get my point, Mr. Producer. And when I watch this guy in New York, when I watch what's going on our streets, I'll tell you what, after I interviewed Benjamin Netanyahu at the Blair House, there were a lot of people there that came to see him from Capitol Hill, from all over the government, from the private sector. They had an event, but I had to leave because I had to get my car out of the garage. The garage locked up at 9 p.m., so I left around 8:30 Eastern. And the Blair House it's protected like it's a military compound. It's so sad. When I worked in the Reagan administration, Lafayette Park and the Blair House, they were all accessible to the public. It's not the case anymore. It's like a fort. The world has changed since 9/11 in a big way. So you kind of have to walk around the block and then walk back to Pennsylvania Avenue. And I did. There were a lot of very loud individuals yelling some very horrendous things about Jews and Israel and so forth. And so I walked, and as I turned the street, I was noticed. And a guy in a bullhorn is yelling, "There's Mark Levin from Fox. He's a Mossad Jew who needs to go back to Israel." Now, that's the least of it, but they were yelling. So when people keep saying, "I'm Mossad, I'm Israel," and things like that, when you know damn well I'm an American citizen, this has an effect on other people out in the streets. And it's very dangerous out there. It is very dangerous. And they were following me with their bullhorns. And it was loud. And I didn't know what the hell they were going to do. I wasn't going to back down, but I didn't turn around to meet the mob. I just walked. And then there were some Secret Service and police as I made a left towards the parking lot where my car is. And I said to a couple of the police officers, "Hey, do you mind walking me to my car?" They saw what was going on, and they knew who I was, and they were more than happy to do it. It's very dangerous out there. Very. I am not kidding. Because you dare to express an opinion that is contrary to theirs. There are people in this country now who come into the country, who come from a background and a culture that is extremely violent. There are also people in this country who are being raised, born in our country, to be extremely violent. And yet it is they, we're told, who have a right to free speech and due process. As they chase people in the streets, as they chase people at colleges and universities, as they shut down free speech and academic freedom, as they try to shut down somebody like me. And I don't just get this from the hard left. I get this from the kooks on the other side, too. But I'm not going to stop. Either the good Lord takes me or one of them take me. But I'm not going to stop. I think this book On Power is a very powerful book. I've written it for you, the people in this audience, your family, your friends, your acquaintances. This is who this book is for. You go to Amazon.com right now, it's $24. $24. People say, "You're going to make a lot of money." Folks, I don't make a lot of money on books. If I want to make a lot of money, I wouldn't turn down all these speeches. I get offered $100,000, $120,000 to make a speech, Mr. Producer. Did I ever tell you that? I've never even told me. I've turned down every single one of them. The only speeches I'll do once, twice, 3 times a year are to conservative organizations. You know what I charge them, Mr. Producer? Nothing. I just need either more room to sit, sometimes first class because of my leg, in a hotel room. I charge them nothing. I used to take an honorarium and give it to the dog rescue missions. But now I figure they need the money, so I don't charge them a penny. I'm behind this microphone, and I do my Fox show, my Blaze show, because I'm blessed to have these platforms. That's why. Not because I need a damn thing. And this book is written, the amount of time that was spent on it, the research I did. I bring it to you. I offer it to you if you're interested in it at Amazon.com. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, the American flag is under attack. We saw it mocked and burned in L.A. during protests. And when people attack the American flag, aren't they attacking everything it stands for? The sacrifice of our troops, the values of our founding, the promise of liberty and justice for all. Thankfully, patriots like you haven't forgotten what the flag stands for. You're the reason the Heritage Foundation created Flags of Our Fathers, the meaning and history of the U.S. flag. This is a resource for patriots like you to remind and refresh ourselves of the American flag's history and deep importance to our nation. Claim your free copy today at heritage.org/Levin. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. If we lose the meaning of our flag, we risk losing our nation. That's why it's imperative that patriots just like you take advantage of the Heritage Foundation's new resource, Flags of Our Fathers. Let's do our part in this fight by going to heritage.org/Levin right now. Heritage.org/LEVIN, paid for by the Heritage Foundation. Everything about Marxism is wrong. Everything. As I explained in On Power, is an ideology that was developed before the Second Industrial Revolution, so there wasn't even a full-scale capitalist system functioning. It was written mostly during sort of a tepid growth of industrialization and mostly agrarianism, and everything he wrote was wrong. The proletariat, the people would rise up and overthrow their government. In our country, the people rise up to defend our country, and they go to war and put their lives on the line. In our country, a vast class of people, because of capitalism, we call them middle class. I don't like this class stuff, but a vast class of people were created who live very comfortable lives, unlike under most other countries and systems. Everything he wrote was wrong. And then, of course, it's the end game. These people write, whether it's Hegel or Rousseau, Marx and Engels and the others, they write like there is some permanent end game that occurs when you're talking about a human society. A worker's paradise, if you will, or where there's absolute equality, if you will. That is insane. That's not how humanity functions. That's not how societies function. There is no permanent end game where everybody's equal or it's a worker's paradise or anything else. That comes out of the wild imagination of these would-be autocrats and dictators. So there's much, much wrong with Marxism, as I explain in the book. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Islamism, same thing. Islamism is a bloody death cult, as Marxism is. I'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. What I've been trying to do here, certainly in the last 7 or 8 years, is try and persuade people who come to you on radio, on cable, on other TV platforms to use the proper language. I don't mean English, proper English. I mean the proper language in identifying what we're up against. Just a few years ago when I wrote American Marxism, which sold 1.4 million copies, which is unheard of, Liberty and Tyranny sold 1.5, that's because you are interested in these subjects, and On Power, I hope, has a significant impact. They kept calling people progressives. And then they kept calling people socialists. Now, we need to understand, Marx himself said socialism is the last stage before communism. Socialism is the last stage before communism. And he hated the socialists because he believed that they watered down communism. Socialism is an economic ideology. Marxism is a life ideology. Marxism is an umbrella ideology that includes economic socialism, but it's beyond that. It's bigger than that. President Trump has been calling these people Marxists and communists since I wrote this book, American Marxism. More and more people on Fox are using the proper terminology. More and more people on radio are using the proper terminology. But most of them weren't. When I watch these seminars and sessions online, clips of them, of these professors and these activists, they are Karl Marx wannabes. They're also Hegelian and Rousseauian, but I don't need to get into that. So they are Karl Marx wannabes. So they take little pieces of what Marx wrote, and they regurgitate them, and they want you to think they're smart. There's nothing smart about it. Now let's go through a few of these things. Again, it's in the book On Power. It's in American Marxism. It's in what I write. But let's go through a few of these. Individual liberty. You never hear these Marxists talk about individual liberty. You never hear Zohran, Mamdani talk about individual liberty. Why? Because Marx denounced it, as did Hegel and Rousseau, but Marx denounced it. Individual liberty and free will, he said, I paraphrase for you, that means everybody lives on their own, they work on their own, and they are weak. They're weak because they're on their own. The class of individuals need to unite. They need to aggregate into a movement to become a powerful part of the body politic. If you're exercising your own free will, you're going your own way, you're motivated by your own desires and so forth, you're the enemy of the communal. You're the enemy. Because we cannot overcome what exists and change the status quo. Create this workers' paradise of equality. Eliminate the wealthy, eliminate the elites, eliminate the this and the that. And of course they would take control, but we can't do these things when people are off on their own, making money, pursuing what they're interested in. If you're a bricklayer, maybe we don't need a bricklayer in your community. Maybe we need a plumber. So you need to be a plumber, not a bricklayer. Let's say you're a plumber. We don't need a plumber, according to the powers that be. We need a truck driver. So you're going to be a truck driver. You're going to do what's best for the communal, not what you think is best for you. That's immoral. It's immoral for you to be so selfish that you care about only yourself and your family. Now, you will never hear this discussed on any news program that's discussing what's going on in New York with this clown, the Trump from. Never. So he rejects the whole idea of individuality. When they talk about equality, human beings have different interests, they have different physical powers, they have different mental powers, they have different backgrounds and experiences and different tastes and desires. That's not permitted. You've got to work in the quote-unquote best interests of the commune, of the communal. It's called communism for a reason. So your individual interests, the hell with them. They don't matter. And you're going to conform. You're going to conform to what's... This is why communism, a.k.a. Marxism, is so bloody. This is why they have death camps. This is why they round people up. This is why they try and destroy various ethnicities and minorities and so forth, because in order to rejigger society, what do you have to rejigger? What is society? You have to rejigger human beings. You have to remake them. You have to re-engineer them. That's you. And so when this punk in New York, he's 32, no more billionaires. Doesn't matter if they produce things that people want, they invest, they create capital. No more billionaires. Government-run grocery stores. They won't work. Doesn't matter. Government-run grocery stores. It's an ideology, a bad, flawed, deceitful ideology. They don't work from knowledge and experience. This guy has no knowledge and experience. In fact, the only knowledge and experience he has, if you want to call it that, is as a Marxist foot soldier. That's it. And so it's ideology, a damnable death cult ideology, a destructive ideology, an ideology that destroys economies, self-worth, neighborhoods. That drives them to the exclusion of real knowledge and experience. Because those who have a differing viewpoint, those who have real knowledge and experience must be destroyed, must be eliminated, or at least pushed to the side. Because that's dangerous. It's dangerous. So individual liberty is viewed as a destructive belief and force. You're selfish. You're just one person. You're dispensable. And you see that, right? Family. Why do you think there's this effort to destroy the nuclear family? Why do you think there's an effort to destroy the meaning of women, the meaning of men, in all aspects of our culture? And not just sports. That's the latest rendition of this stuff. Because the family is a social force within itself. There are bonds in a family that don't exist anywhere else. Well, for Marxists, the only social force that matters is this re-engineering of society. And if individuals acting on their own are the enemy of communism, families are the enemy of communism, because families reinforce belief systems and attitudes that are contrary to the commune. And so, yes, there should be no parental rights when it comes to schools. Yes, the children are the playthings of schools, government-run schools, and the unions, government-run unions. And we're not going to define women, as men as men, and so forth and so on. We have got to destroy the entire construct of the family, whether it means ignoring biology or whatever it is. This is why, under Mao, as an example, and all of them really, but under Mao, you had the children ratting out the parents who weren't sufficiently revolutionary, and their parents would be taken off to death camps. Mao talks about this in the Communist Manifesto. You dare to criticize me, over my view of family? And by the way, just to show you, Mao loved his children. Mao would never have surrendered his children to a government. So when it comes to their own free will and their own families, they will fight to the death. But when it comes to yours, they will destroy it. This is a very evil ideology, extraordinarily evil. This is what Bernie Sanders stands for. This is what this moron and this Zohran Mamdani stands for. This is what Talib stands for, and Omar stands for, and AOC stands for. This is what they stand for. There's nobody around to confront these faculty members. There's nobody around to confront these politicians. I'm one guy. I don't know who they are and where they all are, but I use my microphone. I want to confront them. Because nobody knows how to debate them. Nobody. Handful of us. Why do you think Bernie Sanders won't come on this program? How many times have we asked this old man over and over, right, Rich? Why do you think Jamie Raskin won't come on this program? Why do you think Talib and AOC, they won't come on the program? Why do you think they won't come on the program? If they thought they could kick my ass in a debate, they'd come on the program. They can't, because I will expose them. I will push their ideology against the wall. They don't want to be exposed. They know they're not going to get it on any of the Sunday shows. They're not going to get it from the New York Times and the Washington Post. They're not going to get it from CBS, NBC, and ABC. They're not going to get it from the Epstein crowd. They're not going to get it from serious people like you and me. They're not going to get it because they don't want to be confronted. They don't want to be confronted. The war is more than a political war. It's more than an economic war. I told you, it's Marxism. It's not socialism per se. It's a war on the civil society, the entire society, the culture, the entire makeup of this country. That's what the war is. Before we had a declaration, before we had a constitution, we had a civil society. This is the core of everything. That's what they're focused on, destroying the family. Destroying the economic system, destroying individual liberty, destroying it. And what they're promoting is not new. It's not new. Genocide, the centralization of all power in the relative handful of a few, whether they call it the workers' paradise or they call it whatever they want, it's not new. It's deadly. It's anti-human. So when they talk about destroying the West, especially America, we have to militarize our ideology. When they're marching in the streets, burning the American flag, which is symbolic of what we stand for, which has been carried into wars. They're talking about burning the society and the culture to the ground. That's what they're talking about. That's what this guy's talking about. And they see the weakness in the West and in the United States. They see that the Democrat Party is there for the taking. They see the Schumers and the Hakeem Jeffries and their ilk. Weak, pathetic. They see Obama and Clinton. Weak, pathetic. They don't stand up to this. They don't fight this. They're devoured by it. Willingly so. The best they can do is say, I need to meet with the guy and have a conversation with the guy. Why? Because Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and their ilk, they've given up on the country. They've already embraced fundamental transformation of America. It's just a matter to what degree? To what degree? And when you've given up the basic principles of our country, when you've given up the belief systems and the value systems of our country, whether it's slowly or quickly, and they've given it up, in order to try and build a party, an all-powerful, one-party country, you have no mores. You have no standards. And so all they care about is if they can get elected. If this is something that will fly nationwide, or it may fly in New York, but it may take a little bit more time to fly in Peoria and other places. They're calculating. They've lost their soul. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
If you're with one of the big three wireless carriers, you're really overpaying for your service, period. You're paying for thousands of retail stores you never go into. You're paying for unnecessary perks you never use. You're paying a massive premium for what you think is superior 5G service. Guess what? Pure Talk uses the same 5G network on the same 5G towers. The only difference, they don't charge you for any of the garbage. Instead, Pure Talk gives you unlimited talk, text, plenty of data for just $25 a month. Folks, that's less than half the price of the big guys during a time when saving a buck really matters. I am a Pure Talk customer. I have been for years. I made the switch. It's easy. You can even keep your phone and your number. So do this. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin. And you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. You can switch over to Pure Talk in as little as 10 minutes. That's puretalk.com/Levin, Levin. To switch to Pure Talk, wireless by Americans, for Americans. Let's look at this issue of immigration. For 4 years, the Democrats lied about the border, but we knew what they were doing. We talked about it. Open borders. You look throughout human history, open borders where people from other country can just pour into another country. They destroy that country because there's no assimilation. There's no sovereignty. There's no allegiance to the existing country. And there's no requirement that there be any. And so I just gave you the definition of a country. So the country is destroyed. The Democrat Party is destroying the country. And it's time we stop candy coating this stuff. And if you're going to destroy the country, you obviously hate the country. Now, you may hate it because you want power. You may hate it because you want fundamental transformation, and they want both. But why they hate it is their problem, not our problem. The fact that they hate it and they do these things is a matter of national public policy. That's the problem. So the border's been wide open. Any party that wants a wide open border hates the country as it exists. Period. There's no other explanation. And they want power. And so they assume the people who come in, one day, they'll get amnesty or not. One day, they will birth millions of citizens, and one day they will register for that party. And so you've changed the body politic, you've changed the citizenry, and you've changed the entire nature of the country. It's not the country it was 10, 20, 30 years before. Now, that's the plan, because we see it, we know it. They've even from time to time shown us a little bit of ankle. And now you see when it comes to the deportation effort, the Democrat Party is violently opposing ICE, is unleashing violence against ICE with their propaganda and their antics, and their judges. And their judges are undermining, kneecapping ICE, federal law enforcement, that is federal immigration law, in order to keep these people here. So the open border policy, it's clear, should be clear to everybody now why it was open, should be clear to everybody that these judges are trying to protect and maintain and keep these people here by eviscerating our immigration laws, including the enforcement aspects of it. And this is what the Democrat Party's doing with this ideology. If you're with one of the big three wireless carriers, you're really overpaying for your service, period. You're paying for thousands of retail stores you never go into. You're paying for unnecessary perks you never use. You're paying a massive premium for what you think is superior 5G service. Guess what? Pure Talk uses the same 5G network on the same 5G towers. The only difference, they don't charge you for any of the garbage. Instead, Pure Talk gives you unlimited talk, text, plenty of data for just $25 a month. Folks, that's less than half the price of the big guys during a time when saving a buck really matters. I am a Pure Talk customer. I have been for years. I made the switch. It's easy. You can even keep your phone and your number. So do this. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/LEVIN, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. You can switch over to Pure Talk in as little as 10 minutes. That's puretalk.com/Levin, LEVIN, to switch to Pure Talk, wireless by Americans, for Americans.
Saving America, one show at a time. The Mark Levin Show, 877-381-3811.
There's an element within the Republican Party that is as vile and destructive as hateful as the element that I'm discussing with you in the Democrat Party. They're not as ideological, but they are what they are. This is from breaking news, JBN News. While President Trump was cementing alliances with Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Washington this week, one of his own party members was working to undermine that relationship by stripping aid, military aid, I should say, to Israel from the defense budget. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene announced Wednesday during Steve Bannon's Fraud Room show that she will introduce amendments to remove $500 million in proposed military aid to Israel from the National Defense Authorization Act. There are some parts of this NDAA that I cannot support, she said, and that's continued foreign aid and foreign funding, and it needs to come out. Foreign aid and foreign funding. Foreign aid and foreign funding. Now, there's some foreign aid and foreign funding that we would all oppose, and there's some foreign aid and foreign funding that we would all support, right? We have a common enemy in the Middle East. It's Iran, it's the Islamists, the very people that blew up the Twin Towers in New York, that blew up the Pentagon, that killed our American citizens in central Pennsylvania, wanted to blow up the Capitol building. Can we agree that that's a common enemy? Her opposition extends beyond Israel to other foreign aid programs embedded in the defense spending bill. Greene said she will also target $500 million designation for Jordan, which receives $1.6 billion and so forth. Her position isn't new. She voted against all three Israel aid bills, so she basically took up the position of the Biden administration. And it goes on. Now, there's all kinds of technologies that our countries share with each other. The Iron Dome technology and other technologies of that sort that are even more advanced, and other technologies are shared by the Israelis with the United States government for free, as they should be. The intelligence information is shared among the two countries. But more than anything else, we have shared values. The Holy Land is in Jerusalem. It's in Bethlehem. It's in all parts of the state of Israel, which Israel defends for all of us. The birthplace of Judaism, the birthplace of Christianity. Now, if we're not prepared to defend the birthplace of our faiths, and I'm being perfectly honest, let's forget about nation states altogether, whether it's the United States or Israel or whatever. If we're not prepared to defend the birthplace, God's creation of Judaism and Christianity, then what the hell are we prepared to defend, Mr. Producer? We've never had a single American soldier fight a war for the state of Israel. Never. No infantry, nothing. Nothing. But my problem with this woman is her myopic focus on Israel, her comments about Jews and Judaism. Same with her friend Bannon. There's something truly sick about these people. Truly sick. This is their focus. We have an internal threat right now from this Marxist-Islamist fusion. And they are hyper-focused on Jews and Israel. Are Jews in Israel taking over our universities and destroying our universities and spending billions of dollars in order to undermine our country? Are they burning the American flag? If they burn the American flag, they burn the Israeli flag. These are countries, these two countries that share exactly the same faiths and values. And if you are a person of the Bible, God talks about the Holy Land and what needs to happen in the Holy Land. If you're not a person of the Bible, still it's practical to understand why this is important. We're tied at the hip. Whether the anti-Semites like it or not, whether the isolationists like it or not. But their obsession and their hate for Netanyahu, it's the same that you get from the Marxists and the Islamists. You literally have the neo-Nazis and the Klansmen and the Islamists and the Marxists on the same side of this. They want to overthrow the United States. They support the destruction of Israel. They're Jew haters. I mean, what else do you call it? What else do you call it? If there were another minority anywhere in this country, blacks, Hispanics, Asians, whatever, they're not treated this way without pushback. This is why Donald Trump is so unique and so remarkable and so principled and so righteous. He sees it. And he fights it. This is why his government's so remarkable, his administration. They fight it at the Department of Justice, at the FBI, at the Department of Homeland Security, at the State Department, at the Department of Education. They fight it. They take it on. Not Biden. Not Harris. Not Hakeem Jeffries. Not Schumer. It's just an incredible thing to watch what's happening. To watch what's happening. Troubling thing. Donald Trump is not a big believer in foreign aid, but he believes in it when he believes it's helpful to the United States. When he believes it's helpful to the United States. So obviously he believes this is helpful to the United States. These people are not MAGA. They're not conservatives. They're not populists. They're not whatever. They are Jew haters. That's what they are. I told you before, you got to call things what they are. The only way we're going to resolve these things is if we call them for what they are. And call these people for what they are. You know, they're on the fringes. They dress up in Halloween gear, and you know, they dodge and they weave, and they want you to believe that they're America first. No, they're not. You find them stabbing Trump in the back more on a more regular basis. Well, so who is it that's their great leader? It's not Trump. It wasn't Reagan. Who is it? You see, I'm anti-Republican establishment. I have been most of my career because I'm a constitutional conservative, and too many of them are not. But to be anti-Republican establishment or establishment period doesn't mean you should be an absolute crackpot. That's them. That's not you and me. That's not us. But this fixation on Netanyahu, this fixation on the state of Israel, this fixation on what is it, AIPAC or this group or that is crazy. But it's driven by something more than policy. It's driven by something more than principle. It's driven by something more than fiscal considerations. You know I'm right. You know I'm right. Now, just a reminder, you can always listen to this show, whether we're preempted, whether it's 2 hours or whatever. You can listen to all 3 hours, any time of the day or night, depending on how you listen to the program. Now, we love our affiliates. We have the best affiliates in the country, by the way, top to bottom. But many of you like to listen to podcasts or whatever. You can always go to marklevinshow.com, click on Audio Rewind, and select your favorite platform. Now, if you already have your favorite platform, just type in Mark Levin Show. Mark Levin Show on your favorite podcast platform. Also, we have our own YouTube channel. You can find all my full radio programs in podcast form, interviews, and even specials on our YouTube channel. You just go to Mark Levin Show on YouTube. Just search Mark Levin Show on YouTube, and there we are. So there's multiple ways to listen to this program online, streaming, that is, with our apps, multiple ways. These are additional ways. And so you can always check us out. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
If you're with one of the big three wireless carriers, you're really overpaying for your service, period. You're paying for thousands of retail stores you never go into. You're paying for unnecessary perks you never use. You're paying a massive premium for what you think is superior 5G service. Guess what? Pure Talk uses the same 5G network on the same 5G towers. The only difference, they don't charge you for any of the garbage. Instead, Pure Talk gives you unlimited talk, text, plenty of data for just $25 a month. Folks, that's less than half the price of the big guys during a time when saving a buck really matters. I am a Pure Talk customer. I have been for years. I made the switch. It's easy. You can even keep your phone and your number. So do this. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin. And you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. You can switch over to Pure Talk in as little as 10 minutes. That's puretalk.com/Levin, Levin. To switch to Pure Talk, wireless by Americans, for Americans. I don't think there's another show like this. Is there really, Mr. Producer? We move in and out, don't we? Heavy-duty topics, important topics. You have to deal with riffraff from now and then and clean off the bottom of our shoes, but we do what we do. Doing it a long time. When you think about what took place under Biden, you have this Dr. Kevin O'Connor, who asserted the Fifth Amendment over and over again. What took place those 4 years is an abomination in every respect. But it was also a failing to uphold the Constitution. The 25th Amendment in particular. That 25th Amendment was put there for circumstances like the Biden situation. It was bad enough when the man got elected and he wasn't all there. And I don't say this to mock him, I'm just being honest. But it got very, very much worse as time went on, and that's typical of dementia or Alzheimer's. And not a single cabinet member, and certainly not the vice president, triggered the 25th Amendment. And rather than every one of these people going down in history as a disgrace, some of them are positioning to run for governor or for president. They had an obligation. They took an oath to the Constitution. That 25th Amendment's not there just for looks. And that should have been triggered. And Joe Biden should have been replaced. Look, I understand Kamala Harris would have been the next in line. I don't think she would have won an election anyway. But that's not the point. The Constitution is the Constitution. It's not about playing politics. And so the Democrat Party allowed Joe Biden to sit in that spot till it became obvious to all the rest of the country hadn't noticed, which is a joke, during the debate. And, of course, they desperately sought to win elections, so they needed to move him out. But you know the history. But the point is, the real issue there, it isn't even the signature machine. It's the 25th Amendment and how it was violated by these people. I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Mahmoud Khalil, this lowlife who was helping to lead some of the activity there at Columbia University, is now seeking $20 million from the Trump administration over immigration arrest. So the guy should never have been here. He was let in. And his conduct is really quite appalling. And so now, this is how it works. This is the ACLU lawyers, the Islamists lawyers. Reuters, Mahmoud Khalil, the Columbia University student and pro-Palestinian activist. He's a pro-Hamas activist. Okay, I'm sick and tired of the media, particularly these British-based media outlets and foreign outlets like Reuters, just lying to the American people. What do you mean pro-Palestinian? What does that mean, pro-Palestinian? You're for Hamas? You're for the Palestinian Authority, two terrorist organizations? What does that mean? Even Hamas and the Palestinian Authority is not pro-Palestinian. Seriously, America? Qatar's funding them and others. Hamas is funding them and others. Pro-Palestinian. $20 million he wants for false imprisonment and malicious prosecution. So, of course, they bring it in New York City because it's a scam. It's a scam. A DHS spokesperson called Khalil's claim absurd and said the Trump administration acted well within its legal authority. He's a 30-year-old permanent U.S. resident, they write, of Palestinian descent. But he's not from the Palestinian territories, you know. He was arrested in March and detained for 4 months. Why? They don't tell you why. Why? I hope this will serve as a deterrent for the administration, Khalil told Reuters on Thursday. So now the administration trying to comply with immigration law, the administration trying to kick this ass out of the country, and for good reason. Now they're the bad guys, and now they're defending a $20 million suit. This is how these slip and fall lawyers operate. This is how these judges operate. He sparked an outcry, writes Reuters, from pro-Palestinian and civil rights groups who said the government was wrongly conflating criticism of Israel with anti-Semitism. It had nothing to do with criticism of Israel. I just mentioned that idiot from Congress. I also mentioned the fraud room. Plenty of people who criticize Israel, and harshly so. It's nothing to do with criticizing Israel. The activity that took place at Columbia University was violent. It involved chasing Jews. It involved attacking a janitor and security personnel. It involved doing damaging buildings. It involved disrupting classes. In June, U.S. District Judge Michael Farbery's another loser. He ruled in New Jersey that the Trump administration was violating Khalil's constitutional right to free speech. Now, these places that the likes of Khalil hail from and wish to impose on us, they believe in free speech? I'm just curious. But our own media is full of crap. Look at AP, a recap of the trial over the Trump administration's crackdown on pro-Palestinian campus protesters. Pro-Palestinian. Is that why they're pulling down the posters of of hostages that Hamas has in tunnels because they're pro-Palestinian? Is that why they're burning the American flag and the Israeli flag, because they're pro-Palestinian? Is that why they're damaging buildings? Is that why they're creating little tent cities? Is that why they're creating these crystal knocks on campus? Really? Because they're pro-Palestinian? It's amazing, isn't it? Yet if we lose the culture and they win, there'll be no free speech. There'll be no mobility. There'll be no freedom of any kind. How do we know this? Because we see what goes on in these countries. This guy wasn't born here. This guy came here. He came here to lead a revolution. Revolution by immigration. We're not stupid. We know what's taking place. Now he's suing for $20 million. You'll get some jackass judge and jackass jury in Democrat City. This is how they conduct themselves. Pretty sick. Not surprising. I want to move on to the 25th Amendment. I hit it quickly, but I'm not done. Dr. Kevin O'Connor. He was the physician at the White House for Biden. And he either lied to the American people or he didn't. Massive cover-up. Massive cover-up. Massive violation of their constitutional oaths. Vice President, not a single cabinet secretary, objected to what was taking place and sought to trigger the 25th Amendment, which is there for this precise reason. They did nothing. Cut 17, Mr. Producer. Go.
Dr. O'Connor, before we begin, I would like to go over the ground rules for this deposition. The committee will conduct today's deposition in accordance with the House of Representatives regulations for the use of deposition authority, which were furnished to your counsel. This regulation is incorporated into the rules of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform at Rule 15, which was also furnished to your counsel. The questioning will proceed in rounds. The majority will ask questions for an hour, and then the minority will have an opportunity to ask questions for an hour if they choose. There will be one staff counsel per side asking the questions during each round. To the extent members have questions for the witness, they will be propounded during their side's respective rounds. Do you understand?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based on the physician-patient privilege and reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I am not a lawyer, and I must follow my lawyer's advice in this matter.
Yeah, okay. First of all, this has nothing to do with physician-patient privilege. That's easily pierced. Nobody's asking a question related to that per se. We're not interested if Joe Biden had bleeding hemorrhoids. We're interested if he was qualified to be president because this guy was signing letters telling us how competent he was. And those letters were obviously false. He's not a lawyer on competent counsel. His lawyers are right to tell him to plead the Fifth because he has nothing to say that can help him. That's the truth. Now, what should the committee do? The committee should do what other committees have done, and they should give him immunity, at least transactional immunity, in which case he can't plead the Fifth. He has to testify. Why? Because he's not criminally exposed. That's why. And so give him his immunity. Not a matter of putting this guy in prison. We want to get to the bottom of it, right, America? Right now, you can't put him in prison and you can't get to the bottom of it. So my view is give him immunity. It can be transaction, it can be limited immunity. I don't care if they give him full immunity. Give him immunity and make him testify. Because if they do, he has to testify. He can't plead the Fifth. Because there's nothing to plead the Fifth to. Mr. Comer, you hear what I'm saying? This is what you need to do in my experience, my opinion. Cut 19, go.
Dr. O'Connor, were you ever told to lie about the president's health?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based upon the physician-patient privilege and in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I am not a lawyer. I must follow my lawyer's advice in this matter.
Let the record reflect that Dr. O'Connor has invoked the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Dr. O'Connor, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based upon the physician-patient privilege and in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I am not a lawyer, and I must rely on my lawyer's
This line about I am not a lawyer and I must rely on my lawyer's advice in this matter, that is utterly unnecessary. So he's saying that. That's a political statement to cover his ass. That's unnecessary. He can say on advice of counsel, that's unnecessary too. He can just say, I plead the Fifth. That's it. I plead the Fifth. I plead the Fifth. I plead the Fifth. But he does this whole thing. Go ahead.
Dr. O'Connor, did you ever believe the president was unfit to execute his duties as president?
On the advice of counsel...
We got it. He's a parrot. We got it. I would never want to go to this doctor. Would you, Mr. Producer? Nope. On the advice of counsel, I better not answer. I may wind up in prison. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
David Schoen is one of the great civil rights and constitutionalists that is litigators that I've ever known. And, I bring him on Fox from time to time. And I wanted him to come on this evening because I've been talking about this Mahmoud Khalil and how he's going to sue the administration for $20 million because of the violation of his so-called civil rights. David Schoen, what do you think of this guy? And is he going to get a day in court that he may not want?
Well, that I hope. But I think the guy is 100% deportable. I think he's deportable under 8 U.S.C. 1227 and 1182 combined because they specifically provide that a person is not permitted into the country, or once in the country, a person is deportable if they support, endorse, and encourage others to support and endorse a foreign terrorist organization. He certainly has done that with Hamas. We have a lawsuit going against him in the Southern District of New York right now under the Anti-Terrorism Act on behalf of some of the victims of the Hamas atrocities and some Columbia students based on his activities at Columbia. And I'll tell you this, we had one of the plaintiffs in the case is a former hostage. He told us that when he was being held hostage, his captors put up a picture on the TV, and it was at Columbia, and they said, you see, our people are everywhere. The material this guy Khalil has used indicate coordination with Hamas, certainly active support and endorsement. I think the government was on the wrong track a little bit in his initial action against him by, whether he had committed a crime and so on. They don't need to prove that he committed a crime. He's a person who has violated the law and is deportable under those sections that I mentioned.
Well, do they have access to the information you and your team have gathered? I mean, it would seem to me they would be arguing that and put it front and center, no?
Yeah, we've had some conversations about that. And, listen, Tom Cotton actually used these sections a long time ago to call for the deportation of these kinds of folks. But, I think maybe because the government, wanted to use some summary proceedings or something like that, they didn't want to go through the avenues under these sections, but they just have to do it. I mean, this guy's, when he was released, he's being cheered, treated as if he's a hero. He's a guy who simply endorses terrorism without any question, in my view.
They treat him like he's Martin Luther King or something, and your case, how is it proceeding? It's probably at a snail's pace like every other case.
Right. So we've just we're filing an amended complaint this week. They're going to be filing motions to dismiss. They said already. They already filed one set of motions to dismiss. But, it's the same group of lawyers that you see in many of these cases. They really don't seem to have any idea what they're doing. We filed something with the judge already that was completely misleading. But, they drew a pretty good judge for them, I think. I intend to file, I haven't announced this publicly yet, but I intend to file a straight-up civil rights case against them because I think it's very important that the public understands the narrative that these kinds of people are today's Ku Klux Klan. That's the way I feel about it.
And you're right. What's the difference? Seriously. I mean, what is the difference? The difference is that society had learned to condemn the Ku Klux Klan and the neo-Nazis and so forth. And in this case, these guys have spent billions of dollars in foreign money trying to present themselves as the victims. And they're the victimizers, aren't they?
They are, and they have a complete campaign of misinformation, disinformation. I mean, you see the interviews with these college kids who you would think have to be pretty bright going to top-notch schools. I mean, they come up with these cockamamie stories. The Palestinians were on the land before Jews ever were there. I mean, it's just crazy stuff. Read Arafat's own stuff. Read the PLO, some of the founding member statements about concocting this narrative of a Palestinian people and so on for political purposes. It's crazy stuff that's going on. And to treat these people like heroes. Look, you see, it's not so far off from what we're seeing in New York with Mamdani now. Chuck Schumer congratulating the guy on his election. Now there's a group, I understand, rabbis from Mamdani. It's just crazy.
Yeah, and there's Gerald Nadler, anything to stay in the house, because the guy doesn't want to work for a living, and obviously he's very busy in the cafeteria there. And so he's a guy, he's endorsed him.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, Jew to Jew, and I don't care, I want Gentiles to hear this. If you're Jewish, how the hell do you endorse a guy that talks about global intifada? How is that even possible? How stupid can you possibly be?
No, it's really, I don't know if it's a matter of self-hating or what it is, or you don't understand the existential threat that these folk pose to not just Jews, but all people everywhere. It's crazy, but at some point, whether you feel your Jewishness or not, or certainly if you're not observant, or any way around the thing, you have to understand that these people are against your people, the Jewish people, period.
David Schoen, do they go around asking you if you're an observant Jew or not, or they just know you're a Jew?
Just know you're a Jew. Just know you're a Jew.
And once it's the Jews, then they want to know about all Americans, don't they? Because this is really anti-Western, isn't it?
That's what it is. Globalized intifada isn't just about killing Jews. It's about killing the West. It's about an alternative society.
Yeah, and a lovely one at that, isn't it? Back in the 7th century. Yeah. The West is weak. We have these rules, and we even have people who have podcasts and platforms in our own country, some of whom are quasi-respected or respected. This is due process, and if you fight it, they have a right to free speech. This has nothing to do with either of those things. This is immigration law. That's what it is. You got guys coming in here lying. You got guys involved in violent revolution or promoting the front groups for terrorist organizations. You kick their asses out of here. And there's nothing new about that in our country. That is the right to do that, is there, David Schoen?
100% right. And Mark, let me say, you'd be one of the first ones, I would imagine, to say we have to have robust discussion in this country. That's what democracy is about, and so on. This isn't about that. This isn't about free speech, as you say. This is about violence. This is about killing people, nothing less, frankly. This is about putting down your rights so that I can overtake them and have a completely different sort of world out there, in which we control, and you, Jews and other people and stuff, are just not even second-class citizens. You shouldn't exist. That's what Hitler talked about. And these folks, listen, I don't hesitate to say that what the Hamas people did on October 7th, some of it was worse than anything we've ever heard about that Hitler doing. So,
as Netanyahu told me, and this interview is going to run Saturday, he said there is a little difference. The Nazis tried to cover up what they did with mass graves and so forth. These people brought Go cameras and so forth. They were videotaping it. They wanted the world to see it. They put it out on the internet. These are monsters. That is Hamas and those who support them. They're not civil rights leaders, and they don't deserve a payday. David Schoen, thank you for everything you do, brother. God bless you.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
He's a fantastic person. And he's right. This is the whole West. It's America under attack. We'll be right back.
They call him Mr. Right, Mr. Conservative, and Mr. Constitution. But you can call him Mark at 877-381-3811.
Well, I say we take a few calls, Mr. Producer. What do you think? Let's go to Greg, Fairfield, Ohio, XM Satellite. How are you, Greg?
I'm doing fantastic. It's a great honor to talk to you, Mr. Levin. I have two things I'd like to run by you if I could, please.
Yes, sir.
The first one is I wish this Zohran, the moron, would come onto your show. It would be like watching The Exorcist. Your voice would be like verbal holy water in his big Marxist ear.
Didn't we try and get him on already, Mr.? Let's try again. I think we asked for him to come on. Let's ask for him again. They ignored us, but we'll try again. Thank you.
Like I said, your voice would be verbal holy water in his big Marxist ear, so that'd be great to listen to that.
Thank you.
The second thing I would like to bring to your attention, and feel free to write this down, sir, and use it as often as you would like. Maybe
yes, let me write it down. Yes.
So I was thinking this stupid AOC and this hood rat crotchet, how dumb they are all the time, and I just love listening to them. It just shows you how ignorant they are. So I got to looking the other day, and I had the letters written down, squad. And I'm thinking, this has got to mean something, because they think they're divas, they hate America and everything about it, they're socialist. So I got to looking at every letter, and I think I decoded what it actually means.
Yeah, be careful.
Spelling out squad, this is great, you'll love this. So squad stands for Socialist Queens Undermining American Dreams, is what I came up with.
You sound like Jesse Jackson there, man. You know how to harmonize.
I try to harmonize it for you, sir.
Well, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for your call. All right, let's keep going here. Let us go to Chris, St. Cloud, Minnesota, on the Mark Levin app. Go.
Hey, Mark, this is Chris from Minnesota. I agree with you about the Democrats disgrading the Americans and all of us. You know, that shouldn't be happening. It should be Americans controlling the government, Americans doing the things they want, and standing up for myself, and I'm standing up for all of the Republicans in the U.S., including radio station people that are out there, including yourself and the producer. You know, we all have a right to voice our opinion to the government. If we want our voice to be heard and say, deport these people, we can come out and say, deport these people. If they're doing stuff bad in our country, if they're doing stuff okay and good, then those have a right to be able to stay here. But those people out there, no matter what it is, should be deported because of their evil talk. And
I'm with you. All right, brother. Thank you for your call. Appreciate it. Let's keep rolling, baby. Mark, Lake Tahoe, California, XM Satellite. How are you?
I'm very well, Mark. I'm glad you took my call. I'm a retired lawyer, and I've watched this testimony of Biden's doctor very carefully. And I listened earlier tonight out here on the West Coast with the celebrity golf tournament taking place to your view on the Fifth Amendment and the doctor-patient privilege. And I would be interested if you could, and this is my colleagues have been talking to me all day, under what framework could that privilege be waived? And you know that the
well, there's always the crime fraud exception, as you know, being an attorney, and you have to take these stupid CLE courses every damn year. And so at a minimum, there's the crime fraud exception. So if they think that there's some crime involved, and I would argue that if there's some significant constitutional issue involved, that can be waived. But all they have to do here is give them immunity. And the goal is to find out what the hell happened, right?
Look, I completely agree with you, but it's a pretty long road, to establish one. And I understand your argument, and I respect that, but I don't think that ship is ever going to sail because.
Which ship? What are we talking about?
I'm talking about his assertion that your position is that he,
my position is I don't care. I'd give him immunity and force him to testify. And the Supreme Court's made quite clear, if you have immunity, you're required to testify.
But the problem is the immunity's got to relate to some, crime. And there's no...
No, it doesn't. This is a congressional hearing. It doesn't have to relate to any crime whatsoever.
All right, I stand corrected then. Anyway, your interview with Schoen was great, Mark. Keep up the good work. And by the way, I cracked up on your take on the L.A. judge today about going to the very good, man. You're killing me. So anyway, thanks for taking my call. And
you're a good
I'm
man.
looking forward to your book. And
call again, call again, buddy. I appreciate you. Appreciate it.
Man, take care.
You too. All right, let's keep going here. Larry's back from Hope Sound, Florida. Larry, you're very good last time, so they let you back on the Mark Levin app. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Mark, for taking my call. Just actually a follow-up to what you just talked to that attorney in California.
Yeah.
Mark, would you explain to the audience what the adverse inference is when you're doing a civil, thing where they're being asked questions, and if they answer it in the fifth, that adverse inference can be taken, meaning that
well, actually, a jury is not supposed to take into consideration any adverse interest, as you put it, if somebody asserts the Fifth Amendment.
I thought that was a part of in the civil proceedings, not in the criminal proceedings.
Well, in a civil proceeding, it'd be odd to take the Fifth Amendment because you're trying to protect yourself from criminal prosecution. So if you assert the Fifth Amendment in the civil proceeding, you know what happens? You lose.
No.
See what I'm saying?
Okay, I understand.
You lose. And
okay.
if you're a party, you're not going to put a witness up who asserts the Fifth Amendment because they don't do you any good. But the Fifth Amendment's really intended to protect you from a criminal proceeding. If you assert it in a civil proceeding, it's actually kind of nonsensical.
Yeah, I'm aware personally of a case where in a civil bankruptcy proceedings, the fifth was invoked.
Well, they might have invoked the Fifth because they felt that by making some kind of a confession in a civil case, they'd be incriminating themselves criminally.
I guess that was it, because the end of that was that the situation was referred for criminal
yeah, that's the problem there. Yep. Larry, you're a good man.
Yeah.
How are all my friends there? How's
sir.
the, what's my favorite diner called there? I can't remember the damn name of the thing. Shame on me. Shame on me. Oh, Dixie Diner. How's the Dixie Diner doing?
You're not going to believe this. I just left there I just had dinner there tonight.
I love that place.
It's a great place. I mean,
it's a great place. You've got great ladies there. You got Nicole and you've got Mindy. Yeah. You've got Troy. You've got Marta. They all work hard. Wonderful place. Have I ever seen you there? Do I know who you are?
We've talked a number of times, but I've yet to meet you. I look forward to that. Oh, yes, I have met you. I think I said it once before. Well, Barnes & Noble, you did one of your book signings, and we had a fun conversation because we were both wearing the same shirts from Greg Norman.
Oh, yeah, I love those Greg Norman shirts. Too bad he doesn't make them anymore. All right, brother, thank you for your call. You take care of yourself. Let's take another call, shall we? Do we have another call here? I can't even tell, Mr. Producer. On the Mark Levin app, Barbara in Kansas. Barbara, how are you?
I am fine, Mark. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
I just wanted to reiterate, because I had spoken to you 2 or 3 years ago when I lived in Galena, Kansas, and we just moved a couple of months ago. And we were talking then, and I heard you speaking, I think it was today, in regard to how people could hate so much, whether it be the Jews or the Christians or anyone else, to do the things they've done worldwide. I keep going back to the Bible, and it's a jealousy thing. It goes way back to Abraham and his 2 sons, and there would be enmity between the two, and that's what's happening today. It's wrong. It's just so ugly, and oh my God, I just want to cry sometimes when I hear you talking, because you're such a kind soul, and you don't believe in hatred like that.
Oh, you're a sweetheart.
It really bothers me. And I'm blind, so there's a lot of things. I don't even know what you look like.
Yeah, that's okay. Trust me.
But
as long as my wife thinks I'm handsome, that's good by me.
I think you are. I just live with my son, my grown son, and my husband, but they're not real good at descriptive terminology. I always was, because I was an artist before I went blind. But
I'm sorry.
I enjoy listening to you on the radio. No,
well,
it's
thank
okay.
you, sweetheart.
It's okay.
You're great.
I really do.
Well, thank you. You take care of yourself. I'll tell you what, Mr. Producer, let's get this lady's address. That's right. We're going to send her an audio version of the book when it comes out in the next few weeks, okay? So let's get her address. Don't hang up, please. Don't hang up, please. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
James, Malibu, California, on the Mark Levin app. Go.
Hey, Mark, you kept me alive.
I did?
Yeah. I was living in my car. I was in deep depression. And the only thing that got me through the day was listening to you and Sean Hannity. It just somehow got me through the day.
Wow. So, how are you feeling now? How are you doing?
Well, I wrote a book when I was living in the car, and I hope you don't mind I mention it because I mentioned you and Sean in the book.
Go ahead.
It's called, it's pretty crazy. It's a diary of a manic OCD bookseller.
But how are you doing now? Are you feeling better?
Yeah, I am. I pulled myself together, and so thank you. I thank Sean too. So you're a very positive person, and I believe all the stuff you say.
Well, God
so you
bless
kept me
man.
going.
Thank you.
Hey, one other thing.
Yeah.
What do you think of John Cusack saying that Iran should have nuclear weapons? And
well, I think he's a complete freak, fraud, and phony. I think he's a head case. That's what he is.
And one other quick thing, Mark. Why do you think the people in New York keep voting for this guy or prefer
Why do I
think
they voted for him this time? Well, first of all, you got 45% of the votes. Secondly, you got Cuomo, who's a moron. You got the mayor, who's moronic. Sliwa, who's very good. But among these three, if they all stay in, that's who's going to get elected. The Marxist Islamist. And he says we're going to tax billionaires. Billionaires aren't going to stay there. They're all going to move to Florida. And what I worry about is the small businesses there, the pizzerias and the delis and the plumbers and all the little businesses there. When you go to New York, it's just bustling. It's fantastic. You look at New York. You look at the wealth they create. All the people are there from all walks of life. And this guy would go into really the most important city, if not on Earth, certainly in America, financial center, cultural center. I know people who don't live in New York make jokes about New York, but we know all about New York. I'm a Philadelphian and I love my city, but you understand. So the idea that this guy can slip through, and this is how it always works. None of these thugs ever get a majority vote. They get a third of the vote, they get 40% and then they take over. And then they change the voting system, and then they never lose. That's what this punk is going to do if he gets in, and that's why many people are very worried about it, even people who don't live in New York. I'm very worried about it. I don't live in New York, but I love the city, and I love the people there, especially the cops and the firefighters. I love those guys. Listen, James, you take care. You know what? Take James's address, too, if James has an address. We'll send him a book when we can, too. I'm getting excited, folks, because I actually have a box of the books, and they look great. I'll do a little video over the weekend, maybe, just a little one. We'll stick it online. It's out there on Amazon.com. Anytime you decide to go on there, you can grab your copies. It's going to come out in a couple of weeks. Then it's going to be hitting the ground running, and I really want you to grab your copies if you can. I really think it's going to be very helpful. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel. Our truckers, those men and women in Texas who are saving people, are trying to now recover people. It's a horrible thing they have to do. God bless you all and all the families. See you tomorrow.